Here's a quick update on our box office predictions for Avatar, after which this episode will officially start at around the 2.5 minute mark. Just so everybody knows, at the time of recording this podcast, Avatar, I believe, is currently at 1.73 billion. So if it surpasses 1.875 billion, Craig will officially win. So
whatever it is,
everyone, go board up all the movie theaters around you. I have to win.
So a quick update on that, because I was reading this article on it. So with the current percentages that it's dropping, most movies make a 2.91 multiplier from their weekend box office.
Okay.
That's like domestic.
Yeah.
Right? So like Endgame opened with $250 something million over the weekend.
It's 350.
Was it 3?
It's a lot.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm thinking maybe Infinity War. I don't even know if it hit a 2.91 because it was just so big. Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of, it was still really big, but it died more.
Right, yeah.
Avatar, The Way of Water, opened at 133 or 134 million. So like 2.91 multiplier would put it at like 400 million, which it's already hugely surpassed. And because again, it's just domestic. It's sitting at like 550 right now. So Top Gun Maverick was like a 7.9 multiplier. And then the first Avatar was like a 10.2 multiplier. The original Titanic was like a 23 multiplier. It opened to like $30 million over the weekend.
Goodness.
So if it follows, which it's beating Top Gun Maverick right now in its pace. So if it follows like the 7.9 multiplier and then be 30% domestic and international, it'll hit $2.5 billion. And it's surpassing that right now.
That makes me grumpy.
If it follows the original Avatar, it'll be like a $3.5 billion movie, which it's not going to because it's not following the trend for Avatar. It's hovering just a bit above Top Gun Maverick right now.
Wowza.
I might win.
Well,
so everybody go and see it in 3D, in IMAX.
My heart is broken.
D-Box, so that you spend as much money as you can. Anyways, so...
I am dead inside.
Friendly update.
Thanks, Craig, for that unwanted update on how much I'm losing. Technically, I'm still winning.
You are still winning.
And I'm going to hold on to this until I'm losing.
Yeah, no, that's true. We might as well. Who knows? It could just die.
That's true.
Even though they just extended it for 30 more days in China. So I love you, Sam.
No, you don't. I'm Sam.
And I'm Craig.
We're human beings. And we like movies.
We'll be doing reviews of brand new releases,
Old classics,
entire sagas,
and even TV shows and video games.
This is Reaction Time.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5th episode of Reaction Time. I'm Sam, and I'm here with Craig.
How's everybody doing today? We are going to be reviewing a really cool movie, or maybe a not really cool movie, because Sam doesn't know what I think of it yet.
Okay, so today we're talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once. I have seen this movie, and Craig, up until recently, had not seen this movie.
Yep.
So quick disclosure that a lot of people might not know about us. We work together in real life, in non-podcast life.
Yes.
And so when one of us watches a movie that the other person has seen, we don't talk about it.
Nope.
Until we podcast, so that you guys can get the most raw reactions from us. But it makes conversation outside of the podcast very difficult.
Very difficult.
Because you want to say what you think, and you can't.
Yep. Literally after Avatar, Sam just looked at me and was like, don't say anything. And we just got in our cars and drove back to his place and then started talking about it.
Yeah. It was like walking out of the theater was just like, just silent
Dead
walking.
silent,
yeah.
like, so I want to save it all for you guys.
Yeah, all of it. And just as a quick reminder, the beginning of this episode is going to be completely spoiler free. So you can go ahead and stick around if you haven't seen the movie, and we will warn you when we're going to get into spoilers. Okay, so we're going to get into it now. And I'm really honestly nervous because like Everything Everywhere All at Once is now one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
And so if you hate it, it's fine, but like I don't know how I'll react. So I'm about to ask you and I'm too nervous. Okay, Craig, did you like this movie?
I don't know. Okay.
Okay, that's not the answer I expected, but I don't know what I expected.
I am very torn on this movie.
That's fair.
Okay. There are parts of it where I did not expect emotions that I was going to have to happen, both good and bad.
Yeah. Okay, yes. I totally understand that.
So there was a few scenes for me that I obviously won't say because it's not really spoiler. It's just stuff you don't really need to know about until we get to the spoiler part, but there's a few scenes that are very dividing me on this movie because it uncomfortable, weird, whatever the word I want to use is. But it was almost so much that it like kind of changed my view. But then the rest of the movie was so good. So
it is a roller coaster of a movie.
It really is.
Like, it's insane. And so I 100% understand how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to try to convince you otherwise. Because that's honestly how I feel. But I guess at my point in life, I have selected an emotion.
Okay.
Or like an opinion about this movie.
Basically, if we were going to do this out of 10, with those 3 scenes in there, it's like a 5 out of 10. With those few scenes out, it's like a 9.5 out of 10. Like, it seriously is like dividing me because it was so good in a lot of ways. And in just a few ways, like, really kind of took me out. It was weird. I don't even know.
No, I get it.
I still can't decide.
This movie is for me is like a 9.9 out of 10. But if somebody said it was a 2 out of 10, I would get it.
Yeah.
That's what's so weird about this movie, though, is that it's not something where I'm like, this is objectively phenomenal.
Yeah. Well,
it's
certain
that's
points
the thing
were.
is like I mean certain points, but like as a whole project, I think it's one of those things that is art. Like, it feels very much like art, and art is very subjective, and there's not a lot of art in the world unless it's like a realistic painting of something that you know, you're like, this looks exactly like this. Brian Regan. It looks just like a bowl of fruit. It looked just like an apple. But
love Brian Regan.
So it's like, it's very much up to just your opinion. And it's like, it is a work of art, but there are really weird things and there are really awesome things. And it's all over the place.
I guess when it said everything, everywhere, all at once, I didn't realize I was going to be getting everything.
Yeah. And it was everywhere. And it was all at once. And it hit you right in the face. The title is maybe the most fitting title of any movie ever.
It really is.
Would you recommend that people who haven't seen this movie watch the movie?
It kind of depends. If you're okay with... I can't really say much because I don't really want to get into like... It's not really spoilers, but if you're okay with maybe some slightly questionable stuff, yes, I would 100% recommend it because there are some scenes that are just so worth it. But if you're not okay with that stuff, you probably will hate this movie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it kind of gets far in some scenes.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain.
Yeah, you can't really explain anything because it's
kind of
spoiler territory. But you go.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
So I really appreciate the hard work and stuff in like and we'll kind of get into this in our Out of 1,000, but like the clothing designs and all that other kind of stuff. But that kind of stuff kind of throws me off. I don't know why. It's like really weird, you know? Just like when they get into that kind of... That's definitely not something that was like, okay, I can't watch this because the costumes were weird, you know? Yeah. But I appreciate it because it's just kind of crazy and out there. And if it's everything everywhere all at once, you're going to get some weird stuff. But I will say it has been in my head all day.
That's good. Honestly, I think
it is telling of
for
itself.
Better or for worse, it's an impactful movie. You know what I mean? Like, whether you hate it or whether you love it, it is not something that's like, oh, that was like the worst, most boring movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's not that.
No, not at all.
Which I think it's like, so some people, you know, a lot of artists say a really good sign that your project is at least something is if a lot of people hate it and a lot of people love it.
Right.
And that's kind of, I think, what this movie is. Like, I would say most of the people I've talked to love it.
Yeah.
But I told a friend to watch it, and she texted me and said, she sent me a picture that she was watching it, and she said, "What did you like about Everything Everywhere? Because I'm about to call it." And she was like in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get it.
And that's honestly, the middle of it was where I like questioned if I wanted to finish it or not. I'm glad I finished it because of certain things that, again, I was just like, holy crap, this is so well done. But it almost made it worse because there were certain moments, a lot of moments, where it was so well done that I was like, why are these moments in there?
Yeah.
Because I felt like it took away rather than made it better.
I totally
because it was
understand that.
so good
Yeah.
in some scenes, a lot of scenes actually. I wouldn't even say some, I would say a lot. But I kind of was like, what did that do to elevate the movie?
Right.
Right?
I think somewhere out there in one of these universes,
Yeah.
there's a version of this movie
Yeah.
that's a little shorter
Yeah.
and is like basically a flawless movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One thing I think I want to say this in the non-spoiler part. Imagine though, for a second, take all the goofiness away from this movie.
Yeah.
Imagine if Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness had been basically of the quality of this movie. Like imagine if stuff like the multiverse travel and the heart and the care and all of that stuff was put into that movie.
Oh, yeah.
That movie would have been awesome.
I would have even liked it more
Yeah.
than this movie because a good amount of that stuff wouldn't have been there that I didn't like because
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been made in that project.
Yeah.
You know, just
and it would have
because-
been in characters you know and
Yeah.
care about.
Yeah.
And
No, this,
Yeah.
as much as I hated Doctor Strange and as much as I'm divided on this movie, this did multiverses and all that kind of stuff 100 times better than Doctor Strange. I still think, even in this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, they stayed on a couple universes, well, mainly just one that I really didn't care about. It was funny at the beginning, and then I was like, okay, it's kind of was played out, I guess, for me. But it was way better. But I still don't, I can't decide. Literally all day, I've just been thinking about, do I want to watch this movie again? Because I do for certain reasons, but then I don't for certain, I don't know.
yeah, I get that. I really want to talk about this, so I think we
Okay.
should jump into spoilers.
Yeah.
Unless you have like anything else to say.
No.
Non-spoilery.
I think it's pretty much it. We gave basically our 10 out of 1,000. I mean, 10 out of 10. Sorry, not 10
out of
1,000.
10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to move to spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, I would recommend going to watch it. Craig might recommend going to watch it, depending on his mood. But either way, go watch it. Get through it, I would say, because there are things that are super weird, and then it jumps to something that is amazing, and then it kind of goes back and forth between that.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends.
Yeah.
So I would go watch it and then come back and listen to what we have to say.
Yeah. Do you want to kind of just jump into the score and work on everything, or do you want to talk
Hold on.
about
Let me
this
see what
stuff
my
now?
notes are real quick.
I have 3 notes for this movie, by the way.
3 notes?
3 notes.
Okay, I have this many.
Oh my gosh.
So
I
okay,
have 3.
Yeah, let's jump into the score.
And my first note, what the hell am I watching?
Yeah, yeah, that's about accurate.
That's literally what I wrote.
If you are joining this podcast for the first time, the way that Craig and I score our movies is we score them out of 1,000, which I know sounds ridiculous, but we separate it into 5
You
categories.
put it perfectly in our first episode. Movies deserve more than 10 points.
More than 10 points, and especially more than 5 points.
Such a great scoring system.
So yeah, we rate, and it's not even a rating, it's a scoring system, right? So at the beginning, we'll give our rating out of 10, just like a normal person. And then being the elitists that we are, we score everything based on 5 categories. Each category is worth 200 points, and so the whole thing gets a total out of 1,000. Our categories are first the visuals, so that will be anything from CGI to cinematography to costuming, kind of all of the visuals. And then the story and the writing is another category.
Yeah.
Then the acting is another one, and then the score and sound design, and then just the overall vibe, just basically the way we felt about the movie.
Yeah.
Which on this one is going to be
It's going to be
all over the place.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the visuals.
Okay.
What did you think about that?
So I honestly thought pretty much almost everything looked very, very good. So one of the moments that I really, really, really loved, and I would say it mostly fits under visuals. It could maybe fit a little bit under the writing because it was just writing. But when they go to the Rock universe, that was kind of it was so funny, but at the same time, it was so beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
it was seriously, I'm like, you have 2 rocks looking out on a canyon or to the sky, and it's just text. And because the person says that a lot of universes haven't evolved to...
The conditions weren't suited basically to form life.
That's what it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically, it's literally just 2 rocks on a cliff and text going back and forth. And I was like, why am I feeling something with 2 rocks and text going back and forth? The writing was so crazy in that moment, and I'll get into that with the writing, but it was so out of the blue. And that's kind of where when I was talking about before, they did such beautiful, crazy, powerful things that the stuff that I didn't care for, it was worse than normal for me because it was like, it was like, why did you do that when you've created all of this stuff that's so good, that's so powerful, the ending, all that other kind of stuff. Like, it was just, I don't know. That's why it was so off-putting for me.
Gotcha.
I would give the visuals probably a 190.
Okay.
And 10 points off because I thought the dog part looked really dumb.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick side note on the dog part.
Okay.
The lady swinging the dog around.
Yeah.
She's who created Marcel the Shell.
Okay.
She's the voice of him.
Okay.
She's the
that's Jenny
creator.
Slate.
Yeah, that's Jenny Slate.
Big nose.
Yep, big nose. She's amazing. She's so awesome. I am gonna give the visuals. It's so difficult because so much of it is just like, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like almost like too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's like
definitely
sensory
too much.
overload.
Oh, 100%.
But they do what they want to do. But yeah, I'm gonna take some points off for the dog.
Yeah.
And Rakakuni.
Yeah. Didn't look great.
I think it was definitely supposed to not look great.
Yeah, it was funny.
So I'm going to give it a 1. I'm trying to balance that stuff out with everything else. I'm going to give it a 191.
Okay. And I didn't go lower just because, again, like the costume and stuff is weird for me. But again, I can appreciate it because it was, like you said, it was like art, you know?
Yeah.
And the universe where it's just them as pinatas or the one that's hand-drawn, just like little things like that were so cool. Mm-hmm. And that, oh my gosh.
That's what was so cool is like, I'm going to try not to compare to Doctor Strange too much, but like when Doctor Strange and what's her guts, I don't remember. They were going through all of the universes. They went through some cool ones, right? They went through like one where they were basically paint, and they went through one where they were blocks and just like stuff like that. This one had so many more universes, and sometimes they would cycle through them like so fast. And if you look at them and pay attention, they put in an incredible amount of work for something that was a quarter of a second long. Yeah. And I appreciate that. Yeah. Like, I think that's just so awesome of them to do. Okay, I'm going to give some really quick notes about the visuals that I noticed throughout this movie. One, the stunts were so well done.
So good.
The fighting was really good, and all of the other just like falling or whatever stunts felt extra good. Yeah. Like, I could almost not tell almost ever when somebody was on a wire or, anything like that. So that was really awesome. One thing I loved, did you notice how the aspect ratio of the movie changed depending on the scene?
I don't know if I did.
So like the black bars, that focusing on the screen, when it was like the old footage of her with her parents, that went smaller. Okay. And then in some universes, it filled your entire screen. And then in some universes, it did like the movie theater black bars. Yeah. And so that moved depending on the universe or the era or whatever.
That's cool.
Which is like a tiny detail that I thought was really cool. Yeah. So that was awesome. The costuming was awesome. And then just like, I thought the CGI was just like weird and perfect and crazy and inexplainable. So I mean, I love this movie just visually is so, you know what this movie is? If I had to describe this movie in one word, it is bombastic. This movie is Mr. Bombastic. It's just like
all over the place.
But it's beautiful.
It's definitely a lot. Yeah. Especially the first time.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Did you have any other notes for visuals?
No, that's it.
Okay. So writing.
So on my notes, I have that rock scene.
Yeah.
So I guess we're in spoilers. So what happens if you haven't seen the movie, but you're listening anyway? The basic plot of this story is that the main woman, who's a mom, and her daughter are basically in a quarrel. They just don't get each other. Yeah. Kind of typical mom-daughter stuff. Yeah. And the daughter ends up being the villain kind of all of the universes. So a bunch of stuff just ends up happening, and there's so much crazy stuff happening, and then boom, it cuts. And they have traveled to a universe where each of them is just a rock. Yeah. And like Craig said, they were sitting looking out basically over this big valley or whatever, and it's just silent.
Yeah, there's no music.
No music, no sound. There might be a slight breeze.
Yeah, I think there's some wind.
But that's kind of it.
That's it.
And it's just text. And immediately when that scene hits, first you're like, what? Yeah. And then you're like, this is weird. And then you're like, this is really interesting. And then you're like, this is beautiful.
It was so good.
It's like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
I would agree with that. 100%.
It's it's impossible to explain, I think, without watching the movie.
Yeah,
though.
you really
can't
can't.
feel what that scene is supposed to make you feel if you don't see the
And it's
movie.
literally
or at least
just text.
it's only
It's
text.
just text.
And it's not short. It's not a long scene,
No,
but it's...
but I mean, it was longer than I anticipated.
yeah.
And I loved it.
And they work everything out in that scene, basically.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's so
and it's
cool.
just something like that where it's so unconventional.
Yeah.
Which it's like, whether you like this movie or not, like, they went for it.
Yeah.
They went outside of the box. They
really
just
went
did
for it.
whatever they wanted to. And you could tell that they like knew that was going to be something special, even though it was weird.
Yeah.
And not...
like, who thinks of that?
yeah. It's like, oh, they're going to be two rocks and they're not going to be able to talk, but they still talk and we'll just see text.
Yeah.
It's like,
Who
that's not
thinks
a
of
normal
that?
thought.
No, who thinks of that in a screenplay is like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
It's going to make people feel things. And it's like, yeah, I loved that scene. Just the writing alone for that scene, I would score super high.
Yeah.
Because it was so cool just how crazy and weird and random it was.
I know.
I mean, it literally is just sound effects, music, and then just dead silence. And it's like, what the heck is going on? And I was like taken aback, but I was also like, okay, this is kind of cool, you know?
Yeah.
And then the text just kind of keep coming on. And it was like super deep, like emotional stuff. And I mean, they were like a sentence or two long. This wasn't like massive text that you had to read for 10 minutes. It was like a sentence or two or a couple words.
Yeah.
And it was like, what the heck is this? Like, why is this, why does this work? You know?
Yeah.
How does it work? I don't think it would work in anything else.
I almost feel like they unlocked like a new type of human emotion
Yeah.
in people who see that
Yeah.
scene. It's like nothing. I've never seen anything like that before.
And maybe it's because we're so much online and Twitter and Facebook and all that other kind of stuff that a lot of people now, it's like you're reading a message on something. There's not a lot of human physical emotion. You know, we've kind of, as a society, have been kind of getting further and further away from that. It's, you know, let me message you to talk to you rather than talking to you on the phone and stuff like that. So maybe they knew that it would work because that's a way that society feels that now.
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, that's, you read everything now, you know, and that's how a lot of people talk, you know. So yeah, that's what makes me so much more angry for the scenes that are in there, because it's just like, you can do these such crazy, yeah.
At the same time, though, I would argue that scene works less without the craziness that ensues beforehand.
Yes.
Because before that happens, every noise in the book is happening.
Yeah.
There's music and there's noise and there's stuff happening, and then
yeah.
it just cuts immediately.
And that didn't bother me. That was fine. You know, all that stuff was great, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So it was just a couple other things, but I'll probably get into all of those in my vibe section.
Okay.
So.
I'm going to give the story of this a 200.
Okay.
What are you going to give it? Story and writing.
I would give it a 195.
Okay.
Only because seeing it one time, I was lost a little bit. Like, how I didn't quite understand how the jumping worked. So, like fully understand.
Right.
I thought it was like if you cause yourself pain or something, you would jump. But talking to other people, it was doing something drastic that you would never do in another universe.
Yeah, and they explained that
they
in the movie.
explained that, and I think I probably just missed it.
I didn't fully understand the whole
quick.
jumping thing until the end of my second viewing, kind of. So I get that. Yeah.
So it was just a bit confusing. It really wasn't super confusing, though. Like, I knew, like, what was going on, but there were, like, certain moments where I was wondering why somebody was doing something. Like, one of the people, like, licks a pole or something, and I was just like, what? I didn't understand that it was doing something drastic in that universe made you jump. And so once I learned that, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, that's what I give it.
I have one more note about the story.
Okay.
So basically her and her husband are kind of not getting along.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, all we ever do, like, we just, you know, we're doing laundry and taxes, and that's all we ever do together, or something. It's something along those lines. And she's just kind of she's kind of a B to him. And he just seems like he's trying to like always lighten the mood and like just be a good guy and all this stuff. And then towards the end, when they're in the universe where they're both successful, she's like a movie star and he's some businessman or something. He says, so even though you have broken my heart yet again, I wanted to say in another life, I would have really liked just doing laundry and taxes with you.
I know. Oh, so many good moments like that.
Beautiful.
Seriously, there's so much that's happening in the first hour and a half, right? She's trying to get in terms with everything that's going on. She's trying to get stronger. She's trying to figure out how to do all these other things. And I would say that like there's almost not a story like too much. Like it's hey, we're from other universes. We're trying to find you to destroy this baddie, right?
Yeah.
That's basically the first hour and a half, right? And then it just gets like insane. And the moment where that happens, I would just love doing laundry and taxes with you, which hit home for me a lot. You know, it reminded me of like The Greatest Showman, where the wife is basically saying that to the husband, like, well, you know, I'm okay with a crappy house because I have our kids and I have you, right? I don't need a big fancy house. I just need us, you know? And that's, you know, that's kind of how I feel, you know. I have, getting all like deep in here, a happy life, you know? And so, but when the wife figures out that the husband the whole time is this really kind, he approaches things differently. He approaches things by trying to make people happy and trying to be kind with people. And that's kind of like what I strive to do for myself. And so it was just like an hour and a half of just crazy randomness and like cool scenes. And then it was like, what the crap is this? Because it was such a short scene. I mean, that whole scene between the wife and the husband is probably 5 minutes long, but it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
It's like the first big kick. And because I think the rock scene's after that, right?
I don't remember.
I think because then she starts doing all the kind things, you know, to people, like helping the helping the guy go, you know, get the raccoon. And that's where one of the parts that took away from me was when they clipped to the little S&M thing. I was feeling this really good emotion, and then I was like, why do I need to see this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I get that.
I do realize it's the director. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I didn't know
That's
that.
getting spanked.
That makes
and there's
so
like this
better.
inside joke because somebody was telling me about it at work and the reason why for that scene. But even still, nobody really knows about that, and they didn't really I was like feeling this really good emotion. I was like, oh my gosh. And then that played, and I was like, why did that need to be in there? You just ruined it for me, right?
Yeah.
And then it started kind of going back again, and then it was the wife and the father kind of getting their redemption arc, and then it was the wife and the daughter. And oh my gosh, when it's her and the daughter by the car, and the daughter's basically like, whenever I'm with you, I just hurt and I just want to be left alone and I just want to be let go. It's just like, what is this movie?
Yeah.
Like, such good writing, such good scenes and phenomenal acting, right? Then the mom's like, okay, you know? And then like, she's like, no, I don't want to let you go because I want these little moments with you, you know? And oh my gosh, I hate this movie so much.
Yeah, I get it. What would you give it on the acting side?
I would probably give it a 200, honestly. The husband is my favorite.
He's amazing.
In the entire movie, he's my favorite.
There's something about him, and I can't really put a finger on it. I would just say charisma.
Yeah.
But it's just like, he's so likable.
Yeah.
And in every form, too, of his multiversal self. The daughter also, I think, was
really good.
So good.
Yeah.
Like,
and the mom did really great.
Yeah. The mom, did you know the mom is you saw Shang-Chi, right?
Yeah, yeah.
She's the mom.
Okay.
She's the one who does the fancy.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Whatever.
Yeah.
She's that lady, and she's in another thing.
You know that
I can't remember.
Husband is Goonies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Which maybe that's why, because lovable in Goonies, lovable here.
I know. He was my favorite. When the first time when it's showing the camera and he jumps for the first time and he's like parkouring over all of like the laundry stuff. I was like, you're my favorite person. And it was so weird.
I was going to say that because that's on the security camera,
Yeah,
right?
the security camera.
You almost don't notice that that's happening.
Yeah.
Or you do notice it. And for some reason, for me personally, it wasn't weird, right? Like,
yeah.
You're like, oh, he's in the back doing that. And then you're like, wait a second. This guy's in the background doing like some sort of parkour. And I was like, what is happening?
Like it was some craziness.
I guess this would go in the acting, the action.
Okay.
Mainly the kung fu type of stuff.
Yeah.
Especially like the scene with the fanny pack.
The fanny pack. Oh my gosh.
It was very Jackie Chan-esque.
Yeah.
Which, because it's supposed to be like kind of goofy, right?
Yeah.
Like not totally serious because like
So
the buckle gets caught in the guy's nose and then he rips it down. Like that doesn't happen in real life.
No.
But like they're not trying to make it look realistic.
It was supposed to be great.
It was so well done.
Yeah.
And the choreography, like when she gets the shield. And
Captain America's that's not real life too.
It's so cool because like she travels to a universe where she's a sign flipper. And then she grabs the shield and she flips it around and stuff. It's just like, that's good multiversal writing.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Like, oh, so cool. So I just like love the action. I don't know how much of the stunts the actors did themselves. I need to look into it. But,
yeah, I'm not sure.
But I know she is fairly well versed in a lot of that stuff. Yeah. I don't know about him, but so the acting was great and the fighting and everything was awesome.
I really didn't. There wasn't a moment where I ever noticed the acting was bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, even Jamie Lee Curtis's like war cry was so weird, but it was like, okay, I guess this is fine.
She was like, for me, the most jarring part of that movie.
She really
like,
was.
You go to the IRS, it's her, and I'm just like, it's Jamie Lee Curtis as an IRS agent in some basically indie film. Yeah. I'm confused. But
it was so random to have her in there.
So random. It's so funny.
Yeah.
What did you think about the score and the sound?
I was a little indifferent about the score. Was the main other note that I had. I don't really care for the kind of opera sounding music. Okay. So, and they did that a couple times. I don't remember it was the fanny pack scene or the first time she's doing the martial arts with Jamie Lee Curtis. The music didn't match it for me.
Okay.
I can see why for other people. And then there was the one time where the lady just starts singing opera. I think it's probably to Jump or something. Mm-hmm. But I understand the score and I can see, I could understand if somebody gave it a perfect score because I think it was really good.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my type of score.
That's fair.
So I'd give it it wasn't really ever bad. I give it like a 160.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
Yeah.
I too feel pretty indifferent about the score.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to talk more about the sound design, which I think we should turn this category into a mix of just the whole sound.
Yeah. Because we didn't it took us a while to talk about like sound effects and stuff like that and like Avatar and stuff like that. So
I think that would go in this and we can kind of separate them a little bit. Yeah. But the score was good, but like I really didn't put much about that.
Yeah.
What I did put is, and the score is in this, but I don't think it's the thing, but there are 2 or 3 scenes, like I think it's right before the rock scene and there's a couple other parts where basically chaos builds and you kind of don't realize that it's building until it stops. Mm-hmm. So it starts off with talking and then music and then there's a bunch of different languages in one of them. A bunch of people speaking a bunch of different languages. Yeah. And then there's just sounds and there's people moving around and there's music and everything's getting crazier and crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
And then it cuts on a dime. Yeah. And that I think is so good.
And it lasted longer. That craziness, I thought it was going to be like build up and then stop, but it like just kept building up.
It kept building like forever.
Yeah. And I was like,
and it was awesome. Yeah. And it's just like, you didn't realize that it was getting to you until it stops. And you're like, oh, I hated that. Hold on.
Yeah.
What?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I wrote down. Okay, so it's the very beginning of the movie when they go downstairs and she's looking for the one person's clothes and the daughter's trying to talk to her about this thing and the girlfriend's trying to talk to somebody about this thing and the grandpa comes down and he's asking for breakfast and the dad's doing yada, yada, yada. Yeah. And you just realize that it was so chaotic that I like almost wanted to turn the movie off because it was stressing me out.
Yeah.
And then things cut.
Like it just started.
It's just like... It feels, I don't know if they did it on purpose.
I'm pretty sure they did.
It feels so intentional.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, but it's just like, you don't realize that chaos is building until you're like wanting to rip your hair out.
Yeah.
Which I think is so awesome.
Yeah.
So
It was good.
score was really pretty good. I thought like there were no parts where I was like, oh, score's bad or whatever. And the sound design was really awesome and stuff. I'm going to give it like a 182.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to give it.
Nice. And like I said, I just gave it lower. It just wasn't my forte, you know?
Okay, Craig.
Okay.
I want you to give me your score first
Okay.
of the vibe of this movie. Because I can't tell if you're going to give it like a 1 out of 200 or like a
No, I think
100
it's 100.
or like a
I think it's 100.
100.
I'm so split because
Not even a 101, huh? I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
I don't know. I've given everything else high, so I got to get
That's fair.
something low
That's
because
fair.
I just,
Or else it's going to be a really high movie and you're still going to probably
really-
not like it.
Well, and I knew that was going to happen, right? Because we talked about this before. Your 10 out of 10 score is mainly like vibe, right? And that's what I said at the beginning. Right after the movie, I would give it like a 5 out of 10. But at the same time, I wouldn't give it a 5 out of 10 because it was so good.
Mm-hmm.
But those few scenes just really bothered me or took away from just how good this movie was, that if those weren't in there, I would score it really, really high, you know, like 9.5 out of 10. So yeah, I'm so torn. So I'd say I have 100.
Okay, that's great.
200.
Yeah, it's so hard to give it. I'm going to give it a 199.
Okay.
Because I do love this movie, but I
Yeah.
totally understand every complaint I've ever heard about
Yeah.
it.
The problem was there wasn't a ton of complaints. They were just big things.
I totally get it.
Yeah. I don't know.
So, for example, the scene where I think it's the first time the daughter shows up as the villain,
Yes.
basically, to the mom, and she's taking the police officers out in like a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
That is one of the most well-directed scenes
Yeah.
in cinematic history.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So awesome.
Yeah.
It's just like every time something happens, you're like, oh wow, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
she like puts her hand on the one cop's face and then he spews all of this
Yeah, and then his head
confetti
pops.
and then his entire body turns
Yeah.
into confetti.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that I just think is so cool.
Yeah.
I just loved it. I don't
See,
know.
but then at the end, why did she need to beat the cop to death with dildos?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Bombastic. That's why.
No,
it was to be over the top goofy.
I get
which
that, but-
I understand why a lot of people, like, I doubt that's anybody's favorite scene in the movie. You know what I mean? Like,
But why put it in there then?
because the people who made this movie were on acid.
Well,
like, I
little
don't, sorry,
perverted
if you're
sometimes.
not, but
no, I would agree with that. You have to be on some
they
kind
had
of
to be
drugs
on
to make
something
this movie.
But, so it's like, I don't agree with it personally, but like, I get why they did it because they were trying to be like over the top goofy.
I get that, but they could have done something else and it would have made the scene better. I don't know in what that moment, and this is what I'm going to talk about in the other scene. I don't know what in that moment had to do with putting that in there. That was because it was like, I don't want to see somebody get beaten to death with dildos.
I know.
And so it took away from me, right? Because it was like, I get it's weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very, especially the first time, it was very shocking, right?
Yeah.
I didn't expect that, you know. And that was the other problem that I had. Once I saw that, I was then a little, almost through the entire movie, I was like, are they going to do more?
Yeah. And then they did a couple times.
They did a couple times. So that was my thing. To me, I guess you could say bombastic. To me, it almost kind of felt like, I don't really want to say lazy, but it was.
Oh yeah, I get that though.
It was just what.
There's a crudeness level of humor that's lazy. You know what I mean? Like there's a point
I don't know
where
if I really felt that. It was almost just like, it was almost twisted at points.
Yeah.
Where it made me feel uncomfortable. That part
Yeah.
didn't really make me feel uncomfortable. I was just like, why did I need to see
are you
that?
talking about the butt plug?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all,
Okay.
the fact that the IRS trophies for IRS Agent of the Month were butt plugs was amazing. That's genius. But the fact that they had to use them, yeah, I
But
get
I
it.
knew, so as soon as I saw those, the IRS trophies, when she first talks about them and I saw that, I literally was like, I bet they're going to use these for butt plugs later.
And
I 100% thought that because of how they were shaped.
Yeah, and personally, I think it would have been more clever to never mention those again.
Yes.
Because then it's just a funny joke about
just
the
a funny
IRS,
joke. Yes,
right?
exactly.
So I get that. I think I feel the same way as you do about those scenes.
Because it wasn't, why, one, did they need to do that? Because I understand that to jump, it's to do something totally out of the blue, you know, like but couldn't you do that by bashing your head against the wall or something, you
Yeah.
know? And then every other time they jumped, they didn't need to keep doing the thing.
Yeah.
So why did they stay in the whole time
I
they were
know.
fighting? And
Yeah.
why did the other guy, he had pulled his pants down to try and put it in, but then he pulled him back up and just ripped a hole through.
I get it.
I watched that scene and I was like, I kind of want to turn this off.
Yeah.
Because I was worried that they might even go further. And I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
It was just the little S&M thing at the very end. But like I was saying, they did things so well and so beautifully and so cool that I don't understand what there was to gain from that. Like you said, if they had shown it and never talked about it again, or somebody made a joke about it, perfect.
Yeah.
It would have been hilarious,
Yeah.
right? Because I saw it and I was like, it's kind of funny. You work really hard, and
Yeah.
that's what you get from the IRS,
Yeah.
you know? Like, great, fantastic. And why did it have to be all slow motion, spread eagle? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel the same way and the opposite about that. So I feel the same way about the scenes.
Yeah.
I feel that everything else was so well done that I forget about those things. But I get
Yeah.
your stance
Yeah.
where it takes away from the other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Because I just like really take away like the heart of all three of the main characters from this movie, like the personality types that they each have. Like in the end, that's what I think about when I think about the movie
Yeah.
and just about like the spectacle. And I kind of ignore, maybe I'm choosing to ignore those like
Yeah.
really just like unnecessarily weird scenes.
Yeah.
But I 100% understand the issue with them. Because like I would like it better probably if those weren't in there.
Right.
You know?
Like if those, it just where they spent so much time and detail on it, it felt like a cheap way to appeal to certain people that like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that would think that's probably the most funniest thing they've ever seen in their entire life.
Yeah.
That's not my thing.
And we're
you
thinking
know?
about the same person right now.
Yeah, we totally are. But that's, yeah. That's where it kind of felt like a little lazy. It was like, well, it was almost like perverted. It was just weird. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was
I get
just
it.
like, who thinks of that, you know? But people think of that. But that's why I'm like so torn because it was such a good movie in so many ways. And the other thing, this didn't like bother me, but the hot dog fingers I thought was really funny the first time. But they've revisited that universe so many times.
Too many times. Yeah.
But at the same time, I laughed out loud when she puts her toe up to wipe the tear away. Oh my gosh, that was the funniest thing.
Yeah.
I think one of my funniest moments in that whole movie. But I didn't need the movie of them dancing around and then biting each other's. Do they grow back?
I don't know.
Or do you just lose your fingers?
No, I don't know how it works.
Why are they filled with ketchup and mustard?
I know. I know.
I have so many
Yeah,
questions.
so there are things like that are just like, it's like,
See, that's bombastic to me.
That's bombastic.
Because it's super weird.
Yeah.
But it's still like watchable.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think you gave this out of 1,000?
Okay. It was pretty high. I'd say like an 805.
Craig, you're really good at this. You gave it an 845.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I'm going to say I gave it high. I'm in like the mid
Yeah,
9.
you're gonna-
or the like
probably
mid,
higher
like
than that.
high mid 9s. I'm going to say I gave it like a 260 or wow, what?
200?
I just had a stroke. I'm going to give it like a 972.
Okay.
Maybe?
Yeah.
No, maybe.
No,
I don't
no,
know. Let's
that-
see. 972. Oh, what's up?
Was that
I got
exactly
it right
right?
on the money.
Oh my gosh.
Dude.
Okay, that's awesome.
Okay, that's pretty impressive.
That's good.
That is.
See, that's
I'm the one who knows all.
So that's where it's like that's where it's hard because that's why the scoring thing is so weird to me because again, I can't quite decide what I would give this movie a score out of.
Yeah.
But you take out of the 10, right? But you combine all the other stuff and it's a really high score, but the out of the 10 is mainly that vibe thing, so it's like, you know,
If you ever watch this movie again,
okay.
will you just let me know
Yeah.
what your thoughts were the second time?
Okay.
Because, so full disclosure, the first time I saw it, I didn't technically see the whole movie.
Okay.
Because I was on a second flight from like New York to, I don't know where I was going.
Yeah.
I was on my way to friggin' Belgium. It was late and really early. Yeah. So at the end, like the last 20, 30 minutes of the movie, I was like in and out of sleep.
Okay.
Like I kind of got what was going on, but I technically didn't see all of it because I was falling asleep. And so, yeah, the second time around, I just like noticed a lot more things and obviously saw the whole end as a whole movie. And yeah, I just love this movie. And at the same time, I'm just like, it's such a roller coaster and such a, like an enigma of a movie because it's just like, it's too much stuff to really just like pinpoint it as like, this was a really good movie in this genre. You know what I mean?
No. There's 50 different genres.
Yeah.
It's basically every genre
It's every genre.
Yeah.
Like,
because they even had horror when she dies and then the first time, but her head kind of like cocks a little bit. Like that was almost kind of freaky, right? Mm-hmm. So there was even like a little smidgen of horror in there. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was everything.
Everything, everywhere.
It really was.
It really was. No, the title matches perfectly. If you were debating seeing it and you listen to this and you're okay with the stuff that we talked about, I would 100% recommend this movie. Mm-hmm. If you're not, you might not. And that's the other thing. They're such short and small scenes that it's just, again, why, you know?
Yeah. This movie is a 6-way car crash that you can't look away from.
Yeah.
But everyone lives and falls in love together at the end. So it's not sad.
No.
It's like...
And it's beautifully falls in love together at the end.
It's really just like... It's one of those things where it's like, you should probably just see it just to see it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how else to explain that. Like,
because that was the thing, like, you know, I kind of talked to my wife about it afterwards. And, you know, she really didn't enjoy those parts. But at the same time, she talked about how great the rock scene was and how great they did the ending and stuff like that, you know. And so it's so crazy because the first hour and a half, there's almost no emotion. Like, there's no, like, deep emotion into it, right? It's a mother and daughter fighting. And you notice that it's the daughter that's the enemy before the mom does, you know? And you can kind of pick up on, you know, she calls her fat and she doesn't approve of her relationship and all that kind of stuff like that, right? Again, kind of like you said, your typical mom-daughter, maybe even a little bit more, you know, than normal.
Yeah.
And so you don't have any emotions other than, what am I watching? And this is funny and this is really weird. And again, what the heck am I watching?
Yeah.
And then they just, I don't know how they did it, but it just, scene after scene after scene, it just keeps hitting you in these different points, you know? The rock scene is like this emotion of like just everything is meaningless, but there's a balance to it almost, you know? But it's like, I mean, they say, just stop and just be a rock, you know? It basically is telling you to just stop worrying about everything and just be a rock that's looking out into the sky, you know? And seriously, so the mom decides to let the daughter go, and then she decides not to let her go anymore. And they bring the rock universe back, and they just slowly move. The daughter moves away, and then the mom rock moves towards it. And I'm like, why is this so emotional?
I know.
It's like two rocks that
kind
are
of
just
goofy, right?
It looks super goofy. But I'm like, what the? And then she turns around. She's got the Google eyes on there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is this? Right?
Yeah.
Like, so for those things, it's like, you need to see it.
But then there's all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But so
makes me so angry.
Yeah, the beginning, there really isn't much. But then towards the end, if you look back at the beginning, and especially on a second viewing of this movie, at the beginning, because I know everything that happens, you realize how much emotion there really actually is at the beginning. Yeah. But on a first viewing, you're going to feel like this is just a normal, chaotic family that's kind of in turmoil, and that's it. But then
I felt bad for the husband.
Things. Yeah, you feel bad for him.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
So, are those your thoughts?
Yeah.
You got them all out?
Those are my thoughts. I think I got everything out that I wanted to get out. Yeah. The Ratatouille thing was pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
That is funny when she's like, it's about that freaky movie where he takes off the hat and there's a raccoon on his head. Raccacoonie. It's so funny, dude. That's Courtney's favorite part is Raccacoonie.
Raccacoonie. Yeah, it's pretty good.
So even if people hate this movie, at the very least, I think they need to get a lot of credit for doing something different. The past few years, not every movie, but a lot of movies have just been pretty much the same.
Yeah.
You see everything coming.
Yeah.
Just like, just kind of, I don't want to say I'm getting bored of movies, but I want to be surprised a little bit more. And this movie did that.
Yeah.
It surprised me plenty.
It surprised you.
And there are other movies that are good. Don't Worry, Darling surprised me.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But it's just like, they just went for it.
Yeah.
And I think that is what movie makers need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if your movie turns out as a hot pile of garbage, just go for it, Cause
try and branch
some
out.
Kind of buzz,
Yeah. Yeah. You'll create buzz, if anything.
So,
one other thing that I wanted to bring out. It was, and again, this movie just does this so well. It was so dumb, but at the same time, it was so clever. But the everything bagel was the funniest,
funny,
but like the coolest writing, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I decided to literally put everything on a bagel.
And she starts with normal ingredients, right? She's like, poppy seed.
Yeah.
Some other
salt,
salt,
and
pepper.
Yeah.
My dreams and my aspirations.
And it was just so like, and all the little, foreshadowing of that I was watching. Have you ever seen Cinema Sins? Okay, it's really funny. It's YouTube. It's basically no movie is without sins. So he very like frame by frame like points for the bad stuff in movies.
Oh, okay.
And creates a tally of how many like bad points in the movies there are. And he was talking about how he's seen it like 5 or 6 times, right? Because he watches it so many times to make sure he catches everything. And he started like when they're in the IRS, she circles the spot and it kind of, it will remind you of the everything bagel. And then it like zooms out and turns a little bit on this like one scene, and in the very, very, very back, this very like blurred out green circle is in there, and he's like, is this intentional? I don't know what's intentional anymore. There's circles everywhere. Did they mean to put circles in all of this? He kind of starts like freaking out.
Kind of awesome.
And it probably was,
It probably was.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah. That's my thoughts.
Your thoughts all made sense.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, that was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
It was, to me, a great movie, but to most people, it was a movie.
Yes. It was definitely
that
a movie.
That will make you feel something, and you won't know what it is for quite some time.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever will.
Maybe someday, dude. Maybe you'll watch like 80 times and you'll figure it out. But thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Please go ahead and, first of all, specifically you listening to this podcast right now, whether I'm in your headphones or in your car or on a speaker, grab your phone, unlock it, go to whatever app you're listening to this podcast in. I'll give you a second. Okay, put your finger on the 5 stars. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, underneath that, click write a review and write out. It can be 1 word. It could be 1,000 words. It can be every word, everywhere, all at once. I don't care what it is. Please leave us a review. Leave us a rating. It helps us out so much.
Leave us a review that says, you guys are an everything bagel. There you go.
I would love that.
I would love that, right? That'd be so great.
That would be amazing. All the links for basically interacting with us are going to be down in the show notes.
Yep.
We have a link for our Discord,
yep,
which is where we talk about just more in depth kind of what we're talking about on here. You can get foreshadowings to future episodes. You can keep track of our box office predictions. You can keep track of our scores on all of these movies, our individual scores. And
you can put your own scores.
Put your own scores.
Yep.
Review your own movies. Request a movie you want reviewed. And then also follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok. We're posting regular videos, just clips from our episodes and different little things like that. And if you have a movie that you really, really want reviewed, email it to us or throw it in the Discord.
Yeah, please do. You can also support the channel. That's also in the show notes. Basically, it's if you want to help donate to keep the podcast alive. I mean, we're having fun with it. So just remember, everybody, this is reaction time. Rainbow Eagles, artistic color. Tacos, insides. Orange nectar. Tiny, impenetrable metal elephants.
Oh my goodness, those are the biggest words that we've used so far. Oh, that was incredible. Everybody clap for Craig. Oh.
Well, I don't know why it was a poem either.
That was great. What a long haiku. Well, that was everything. Please join us next week when we review Cloverfield.
Yes, the first Cloverfield, which Sam hasn't seen.
I have not seen.
So I now have to wait to see what he thinks about it. But
The tension will build for 1 week.
yep. But thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
And thanks for everybody that stayed and listened. And we'll catch you next week.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.